Hey, welcome back.
You just caught us watching some birds on our couch here. On our home couch, actually.
Yeah, welcome back to Kids Ask Rangers, live from our couch. A couple of park rangers here, staying at home during this whole thing, and just getting to be park rangers live with you all on Facebook. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us for our very first Kids Ask Rangers episode this Thursday, April 9th, 10:30 Pacific time. I am Ranger Anastasia.
Hi, I'm Ranger Adam.
And we'll be with you for about a half hour or 45 minutes. And we'll be here the entire time, somewhere on the edge of Yosemite National Park, right near the park. Some of you wrote in and said you were concerned about us making sure that we are following social distancing recommendations, and we wanted to let you know thank you for worrying about our safety. We are indeed following social distancing. We have taken many walks around the block here near Yosemite, but we have been inside this little block area for about the last month, and we both live here. This is our couch, our ranger couch, and so we aren't practicing social distancing with each other.
Yep. Well, the great thing about living near Yosemite is there's still a lot of great nature right outside our window. So we get to look at things like birds. I was just looking at some birds outside just now, some titmice. We'll talk a little bit more about those later. But the great thing about going on walks and looking out the window, maybe even in your neighborhood, is you get to do some exploring. And that's my favorite part about being a ranger, is just continuing the learning process and being curious about the world around us.
One of my favorite parts about being a ranger is getting to meet all of the kids that come to visit or that write in with questions at the park. And I've really been missing that since the park has been closed. And so we thought this would be a great opportunity to connect with kids, to find out the things that they're seeing and on their block and out their window, and the things that they're wondering, so that we can puzzle about them together. So today we have last week called for kids to send in their questions, what they're wondering about, nature questions, things that they can come up with a question, and they sent it in their own voice or in their own handwriting to our email box. We brought all of those in, we looked at them, and we're going to base some of what we talk about off of those kids' questions, and we're going to share the kids' questions with you too. And in the meantime, if you are a viewer and you have questions too, you can put them in the comments. I can see that there's a lot of comments coming in now. This is our very first Facebook Live, and since we're practicing social distancing, we actually don't have anyone behind the camera, which is one of the reasons why it was such a delay in getting over here. So please be patient with me. I might pop out and zoom around to see some of your questions so that we can answer them in real time. So if you're joining now, we can answer some of those questions in real time too.
Great. I'm already seeing some great questions pop up, actually.
Are
so
you?
I can't wait to get to those. Once a little further on into the broadcast here. It's funny, a lot of the questions that we got from kids leading up to this that we're going to work with today have to do with the same thing. We just let out an open call for kids to ask whatever nature questions they had. And it's funny that we got so many responses about just one animal in particular. There is one really popular and really exciting critter that we have here in California that a lot of kids really wanted to know about. So I think today's episode is going to be all about...
Drum roll, please. Bears!
That's not a bear.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's a porcupine! But I think porcupines are very underrated and a really interesting animal. But yeah, I guess we'll have to just say goodbye until maybe later when some kids have some questions about porcupines. So bears it is.
Porcupines will have their day, but today is Bear Day. So today we're going to do an episode all about bears in Yosemite. We got a submission from a kid in Italy, Riccardo, who actually painted a bear and wanted to show us. And so here is a painting by Riccardo, age 7, from Italy.
I'm showing on the screen right now Riccardo's beautiful, it looks like some of it is watercolor and some of it might be crayon, but his beautiful bear. So this is perfect, Riccardo. Thanks so much for submitting this early this morning. And that's going to be our theme today.
Excellent. Thank you, Ricardo. And to those of you just joining us, again, it's great that you're all here. Make sure you invite your friends and share this video feed with them, and spread the love. The more questions we get in the comments, the better. And again, I'm already seeing a lot going on here, so I'm really excited about that. But what do you say we get to some of the questions we got from kids?
That's a great idea. Here is our first question. I'm going to play it, and it came from a neighbor right down the street from us.
Great.
Hi, my name is Kavish. I'm 5 years old. I have a question for you. Is the difference between grizzly bear and regular bear?
That's a great question, Kavish. Now, Kavish, also from California, 5 years old, asked, is there a difference between grizzly bears and regular bears? So Kavish, being from California, probably is referring to the black bear as the regular bear. We only have one species of bear, wild in California, and that is the black bear. And so this is not actually in the natural range of the grizzly bear anymore, California. Did you want to talk a little bit about ranges and habitats?
Yeah, so Ranger Adam used the word range, and that's a technical word that means where an animal can be found. And when I say where an animal can be found, I guess I don't mean its habitat. I know that you probably know that word. Habitat being a place like the forest or a desert or the edge of a river, a riparian zone. When I say range, I mean place on the map. So California is only the range for black bear, but I've worked in 2 different parks that had both grizzlies and black bear. When I was at Yellowstone National Park and Denali National Park, I had to learn the difference between the 2. So Kavish, here you go. Here is one of the differences. They are different species and they have different shapes in their body that help you identify them. So different identifying physical characteristics. So if you're watching a bear and you have your binoculars up, you're looking for 2 different places on their body where they might be shaped differently. So a grizzly bear has huge arms that it uses to tear up the earth, and it has really big arms and a really big back and a hump up high on its body where its arm muscles connect. So you look for high humps with the grizzly bear, and on the black bear, its body isn't shaped quite the same. It has smaller shoulders, but it has big bottom bumps. So you look for bottom bumps with a black bear, and you look for high humps with a grizzly bear. So try that out with us. High humps, grizzly bear. Bottom bumps, black bear. But again, as Ranger Adam said, if I looked at the range of grizzly bear on a map today, I would see that California is no longer in a grizzly bear's range.
It's funny because they used to be in California. There used to be so many grizzly bears, actually, that the grizzly bear, that species, is the state symbol of California. One place where you might see a grizzly bear in California these days is actually on the state seal or even the state flag. And here, Ranger Anastasia is showing a picture of the California state flag, which shows a picture of a grizzly bear on it. And if you look really close at that picture of the grizzly bear, let's go ahead and show it again.
I'm showing it.
Excellent. There we go. You'll see the shape that Ranger Anastasia was talking about. You see that hump on the back right there on the shoulder? That's how you know it's a grizzly bear. So it's got that big hump on it. And so next time you see a California state flag, you can tell the people you're with, that's a grizzly bear. And you can tell them exactly how you know it's a grizzly bear. You can do that little shimmy there. Excellent. So you'll notice the bear on the state flag is also brown colored. So grizzly bears are a kind of brown bear. The species is brown bear. Grizzly bears belong to that. They're a kind of brown bear. And so of course you would think they're brown in color, just like they are on the flag. And actually here in California, like I mentioned before, we only have black bears. That's the one species we have in California. But I've been here in Yosemite as a ranger for about 10 years, and I see bears all the time. And in those 10 years as a ranger in Yosemite, most of the bears that I see, the black bears, are actually brown. They're actually brunettes. So the name is actually a little confusing.
That's confusing.
Yeah, but the name is black bear, but most of them are brunettes, and some of the bears I've even seen in Yosemite are as blonde as Ranger Anastasia here.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but yeah, that's the way it is.
That's neat.
Great.
I have a link to a video that I'm going to try to put in the comments section that is a Ranger Minute. It's a video with an interview with a bunch of Rangers about the history of the grizzly bear in California and at Yosemite in particular. So watch for that link as soon as I can figure out how to post it. I might even pop out here a few times to try to put those links in. So thanks for your patience.
Great. And if we can't post the links during the live stream, we'll do so afterward. We'll post them right into the comments there. That way, as soon as we're done filming, you'll have something to check out through the links. So we'll go ahead and do that. We do have another question about bears from Robbie. Robbie is in Washington State, joining us from Washington State, asked us a great question about bears. Robbie is 5 years old. Here's Robbie.
It is Robbie from Toledo, Washington. I'm 4 years old.
And I want to know what the bears are up to.
I want to know what the bears are up to.
He wants to know what the bears are up to.
What are the bears up to? That's a really good question, Robbie. Well, a lot of rangers like me and Anastasia are unfortunately not working or living in the park anymore, not for the time being, but we still do have some coworkers and friends of ours who work in the park, and they actually live in the park too, and so they get to see bears. And what are the bears up to right now? Well, we know that they are waking up for the springtime. They spend a lot of time in the winter sleeping, but now is the time of year when they start to wake up from their winter nap, and they are hungry. So we know that much.
How do we know what we know? How do we know what they're doing right now?
That's a really good question. Well, some of those coworkers and friends of ours who live in Yosemite have actually taken some videos of the bears and other wildlife that they've seen in Yosemite. So now that there are fewer visitors in Yosemite National Park, the wildlife is way less afraid of showing up in places where there would be a lot of people. And so we've gotten some really good videos of bears and other critters roaming about right now.
And I have a link to that video of bears roaming around that was taken just a couple days ago that is on our Facebook feed, and I'm going to drop that in the comments.
Cool. Well, so we do know that bears are waking up right now, Robbie. We also know that they're spending a lot of time walking around looking for food. Another way that we know that is because some of our park scientists, we have scientists on staff, and one thing that they do is track bears. Sometimes they could put a fancy collar on the bears around their neck, and that tells the scientists where the bears are going, where they're hanging out. So we can use that data to figure out what the bears are up to.
I wanted to show you a picture of a black bear. I'm going to link to this on our comment section. This is a picture of a black bear taken in Yosemite, and this one has pretty dark color, but you can see that bottom bump that on its bottom side that is so classic of a black bear. And I'm also going to show a special tag that we put on the bears, the bear team puts on the bears in order to identify who is who. Oh, that's cool. I can see your face. So this is kind of like the name of the bear, because we don't give bears names because they're wild and they deserve to just be bears and not have people names, but we do put numbers on them so that we can help keep track of where they go, what they eat, what they do, and so that we can help best take care of the bears and make sure that Yosemite is a good place for them to live because it's their home.
That's right. Yeah, a big part of being a ranger is making sure not only people are safe, but the wild animals are safe too, and that's a big part of our job. So that's great that we're still on top of that, even without people visiting the park right now. So the bears are going around looking for food, but what kind of food are they getting into? Some of their favorite foods are really coming out right now in the springtime. And a lot of those foods are underground or in logs and things like that. Now, again, I've been a ranger in Yosemite for about 10 years now, and I see a lot of bears. And most of the time I see a bear in Yosemite National Park, it's doing one thing. It's digging. It's digging around in the ground. It's digging around in fallen logs and roots on the ground looking for bugs to eat, mostly. It's actually funny because a lot of people think that bears like to eat a lot of meat. They like to hunt a lot, but honestly, black bears, especially those in Yosemite, just really like to eat ants and worms and plants and things like that too. So grass right now, imagine eating just pounds and pounds of grass.
You can't make me.
No.
No.
So they do use their claws for digging. And so I've got some bear claws to show you here really quick.
And as you're showing that, I just wanted to say that thanks for joining us. I see there's a couple of folks joining from Alabama. Lenore had a question about the color of brown bears. She probably knows because she sounds like she's done some reading that most of our black bears are brown. Yes, that's right. They are. Thanks. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
oh yeah,
there's a couple questions I see floating by the comments here.
Great. So yeah, just like Ranger Anastasia said, it's funny, but most of our black bears in Yosemite are brunettes. And so here's a bear skin that looks brown in color, but make no mistake, that is actually still a black bear. And that is the bear's claws right there. That is what they use for digging into the ground or into fallen logs to look for bugs to eat. And they also use these claws for a couple other things too. One of those things is actually climbing trees. So they're actually really, really good tree climbers. And so all the time in Yosemite, if I see a bear, sometimes it's way up in a tree. And so when I first started working here as a ranger in Yosemite about 10 years ago, I saw a bear from far away, and I took a photo of it. And we're going to share that photo with you right now.
Okay, so I'm showing a photo of a bear in a tree that Ranger Adam took. Gosh, Ranger Adam, this looks like you were pretty close to that bear. Is that just a trick of the lens?
It was, yeah. I actually was not very close to that bear. I took that photo from far away with a special lens, a really long-range lens that let me look really up close to that bear from really far away.
Ooh, Gavin, who's 9, had a question about how long those claws are.
That's a really good question, Gavin. Well, by the looks of it, they are about 2 inches long. And that's another difference. Going back to Kavish's question, let's find out about the difference between grizzly bears and black bears. And we're looking at about 2 inches actually. Yep,
cool.
About 2 inches. We just measured it with a ruler. That matches up with what I know about black bears. So I think we can pretty safely say this is a black bear, despite being brown. Grizzly bear claws are actually much longer. They can be 5 or even 6 inches long.
Great.
So bears are out there looking for all kinds of food, especially in the springtime right now. Like I said, they haven't eaten in a long time. And bears actually need to eat a lot of food every day. And we're talking things like, again, ants, grass, flowers, berries, all that kind of good stuff. To eat enough food for the day, a black bear needs to eat 5,000 calories of food. About 5,000 calories of food. That's all the energy that's in the food. 5,000 calories worth of energy. So that's a lot of food. The equivalent amount of human food is 32 potatoes. So this is a basket filled to the brim with potatoes. It's quite heavy. Ranger Anastasia, do you think you could eat 32 potatoes in a day?
Yes, easily. I love potatoes.
It's true. She loves potatoes. Right. She really does.
They're heavy. They're heavy.
It's a lot of potatoes. That's a lot of food. Now, can you imagine eating that many ants, the same weight in ants? No, that doesn't sound very good, though. But to a bear, they really like that.
How do they find those ants, though?
Good question. So they have actually a really, really good sense of smell. Right here, we also have a bear skull. This is the skull of a black bear. I'm going to hold it up to the camera here. Give you a once over here. You can see the teeth. There's the jaw. Here's the eyes I'm pointing out. And right here in the middle of the skull, you'll see a big nose hole.
Oh, don't touch your face.
Oh, So you can see a big teeth and, of course, a big nose as well. So having a big nose is probably a good sign that this animal has a really good sense of hearing.
Smell. Sense of smell.
Sense of smell. A really good sense of smell. So black bears have a better sense of smell than anyone you've ever met. Any human being, and a better sense of smell than any dog you've ever met too, actually. Yeah, so they can smell ants from really far away. They can smell all that tasty, good food. from really far away, including junior rangers.
Junior Rangers food? So, well, I guess that gets to a good point, because every time that I am in the park, I really notice that the kids, that especially the ones that are becoming junior rangers, are usually the ones that are showing their parents how to make sure that they can have their picnics, have their chips, but keep them away from bears and keep bears eating their wild food, so that they can enjoy their snacks and make sure that bears can still enjoy their wild snacks.
Great. Yeah. So things like chips, potatoes, really tasty human food.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Nice. Still fresh. Yeah. Excellent. Definitely not good for bears to eat, though. Our food can make them sick, and so a big part of our job as rangers and junior rangers too, like Ranger Anastasia said, is making sure that not only people stay safe, but that wild animals stay safe too by keeping separate.
Ooh, Pamela has a great question. She says, does putting your food out on a limb when you are hiking keep it safe from bears accessing it?
Great
if you
question.
needed to walk away?
That is a great question, Pamela. Actually, the best way to keep your food safe when you're out and about hiking is to keep it on you, to keep it on your person. Say you have a backpack and you've got some chips in your backpack there. You want to keep a really close eye on it. You want to keep it with you and keep a really close eye on it. So best way to deal with it is to just really have it on your person at all times. Don't leave it, say you want to take a break and you leave your backpack and walk away. Well, that's a good opportunity for not just a bear, but maybe even squirrels or other animals to come grab your food. Again, that's not good for them, and you certainly don't want anyone stealing your food either, right?
I also just wanted to take a minute to say that I see that you're watching us in Ohio and Virginia, from North Carolina. There's someone calling it from Israel. Let's see where Michigan. Hey, Rebecca in Michigan.
This is so cool, being a ranger, right outside Yosemite, and just having people from all over the world join us.
We've missed you.
So, also putting your food in a tree doesn't really work because, like I said a minute ago, bears are really good climbers. They use their claws to climb up the bark of a tree, and they can get up into a tree and get your food that way. It doesn't really work, actually.
I saw one other question. Do you mind if I jump in and answer it?
Great.
Someone said, why do bears have long teeth? And they actually have a variety of teeth. They have long incisors in the front here, and then if you look, I'm showing the bear skull now. I'm showing the teeth. I'm showing the back teeth, and they look a lot like our molars. They're flat, and that's where you would eat like a carrot, versus up front where your incisors are long. That's where you might eat like a drumstick if you eat meat. So the reason why you have these two shapes of teeth is so that the bear can successfully eat a variety of things, both meat with the front teeth and tougher plant matter that needs to be mushed down with those molars in the back. So that's why they have longer teeth. Thanks for that question.
Lots of really good questions coming in. Keep them rolling in. We'll get to as many as we can, and we're going to get to some once the broadcast is over too. But I'm seeing a lot of questions. We'll see what we can do. Thank you for being so enthusiastic. Speaking of enthusiasm, we got another really good question from Leah,
Great.
age 7, and Leah had a really good question about bears in Yosemite.
Okay, I'm going to play that now. Oh, sorry. Pardon.
Hi, my name is Leah, and I have a question for you. How many live in the ocean?
Oh, sorry. Technical difficulties.
We'll try that one more time. Let's see if we can hear Leah.
Pardon.
Hi, my name is Leah, and I have a question for you. How many bears live in the Yosemite Valley? Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Leah.
Great, thank you, Leah. That is a really good question. Like I mentioned before, I've been a ranger in Yosemite for about 10 years. I know quite a bit about bears. And I gotta be honest, Leah, that's a really hard question to answer. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on how much food is in Yosemite Valley at any time. During the fall, there's a lot of things on the ground called acorns. So here is an acorn. I'm gonna hold it up to the camera here. It is a seed from an oak tree And we've got oak trees right outside our window here. You might be able to see, there you go. The window right outside has oak trees, and that's where I gather these acorns from our yard. There's a ton of them out in the yard in the fall months, and that is really good food for bears in the fall. So in the fall, there is about enough acorns for about 5 bears, right around 5. Heading into winter time, there is about, well, there's not that much food on the ground, honestly. There's not that much food in the winter, so we don't really see a whole lot of bears out and about. We do know that there are bears in Yosemite Valley, though.
How do we know that? How do we know that?
How do we know, even if we don't see them? Well, again, some rangers, like our friend Ranger Mona, who's
Ranger
on the bear
Mona!
team, who studies bears, can figure out with tracking data. Once again, remember those collars we talked about before, where the bears are hanging out. And it turns out they're sleeping throughout most of the winter. So you might not see them in Yosemite Valley in the wintertime, but they are sleeping there. And in the wintertime, we have about 5 or so that sleep in Yosemite Valley. By about springtime, this time of year, again, there's all kinds of food popping up in Yosemite Valley. Things like I mentioned before, grass, berries, ants, worms, all those things are coming back to life and providing a lot of food for bears. So in the springtime, we have about enough food for about 5 bears. And then in the summer, things start to dry out a little bit here in Yosemite. There's less food available, natural food, but people start to show up. People start to show up with things like that bag of chips. People start to show up with sandwiches and cookies and all that kind of good stuff. And so the smell of all that good food draws in some bears. And so usually in the summer we have about 5 bears. So the really long answer to answer your question there, it took a while, but there's about, give or take, 5 bears in Yosemite Valley. About 5 at any given time. That goes up and down, but that's about the average number.
I imagine it's probably easier to answer a question like that with an animal that doesn't move around as much as a black bear. But
right, yeah, black bears just move around so much, and once again we know that because we can track where some of them move using tracking collars, and we know that they move around quite a bit, and they use their sense of smell to follow where the good food is.
That's a great question. I saw another question come up that actually also came in over email this morning. It looks like, was it Dominic asking, how did we become park rangers? And we also got a question from a junior ranger from New Hampshire, my home state. Tommy asked how he could become a park ranger. So let's answer that. How did we become park rangers?
Well, I can tell you why I became a park ranger.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I think I talked about it a little bit before, but I really like being a park ranger because it's just a lifelong learning process. I think a good mindset to be a park ranger is just having curiosity about the world, how it works, how it got to be the way it is, and how all those things in the world work together. So in the case of working in a national park like Yosemite, I think it's really cool to learn about things like bears, to learn about other animals like birds, like we've been watching outside of our window here, and just being curious about what kind of birds are out there, you know, looking at a field guide, learning what the birds eat, and learning how that changes throughout the year, and learning about history too. So just having a lifelong curiosity about nature and about history, I think are the most important things to have to be a park ranger.
Yeah, it's interesting because the reason why I became a park ranger was pretty similar. I studied science, but I did not go to school to become a park ranger. I just found that I was really curious all the time. I wanted to know what that bird was, or what that sound was, what that smell was in nature in the springtime. And I liked it so much that I realized if I became a park ranger, I could go to new place after new place after new place and always be able to ask that question and learn more things, which is one of the reasons why I really like working with kids, because they're always sort of helping me jump off and learn new things by asking even better questions sometimes than I have in my own brain. So that's basically the long and the short of it is, if you would like to become a park ranger, make sure that you stay curious and use your curiosity as a jumping off point to do research and to find out about the world around you. And being comfortable outside is a pretty good idea too, and you can do that right on your own block, because no matter where you go, nature is right outside your window.
Absolutely. Anastasia mentioned she likes to move around a lot and work in different national parks, but you can also just stay in the same place and get a really good depth of knowledge just studying the area where you live. I've been in Yosemite for 10 years, and there's still so much that I haven't learned. So even if you don't move around, even if you just stay in your hometown where you grew up, there's just still so much you can learn right there in your neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
So stay curious.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Tommy, who gave us that question. It's his birthday today. So Tommy, stay curious and keep at your junior ranger questions and curiosity. It looks like Sierra was asking whether black bears have molars. And yes, Sierra, black bears do have molars, and I am holding up a black bear skull to the camera now, and you can see these flat-shaped, almost little rectangular-shaped teeth in the back are molars. Thanks for that question.
Amazing questions. We've gotten a lot of good questions. We are, I think, about ready to wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
We'd also like to take this opportunity to invite you to send us more questions. We like to receive questions mostly in the form of a voice recording. So you can use an app on your phone to record your voice and send us the message that way via email to yos_education@nps.gov. And we're going to post a link to that email address after we're done with the live stream here, so you know where to send your questions. We also like to receive questions in the form of handwritten notes, so use your best handwriting, write it out on a piece of paper, and then take a picture of it and send it to that same email address.
And we usually look at those questions at like a day or two before we make the episode, so make sure to, if you get them in a little bit earlier, then we can use those to help guide us with that episode. But speaking of our next episode of Couch Rangers, Kids Ask Rangers, episode 2, we have a question from Lily, which is a great commercial for episode 2, and I would like to play that right now.
Okay, go.
What kind of birds did you see outside of your window?
Thank you, Lily. She asked, what kind of birds did we see outside of our window in our last video when we were watching this beautiful oak tree at the window to my right here. What birds did we see, Ranger Adam?
You know, actually, I saw the same birds just now. If you caught the beginning of the video, you saw me for a couple of minutes there looking at birds. I got really curious about the birds that we were seeing, and in the last video, mostly I was seeing a bird called an oak titmouse. And that's appropriate habitat for an oak titmouse because that is an oak tree right outside, like I mentioned before. And so they like to hang out on oak trees.
And I am showing a picture of an oak titmouse from my bird guide. And I bet lots of you may have a bird guide either online or in a library near you or in your home bookshelf, hopefully. Social distancing.
Great. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
Which, by the way, has a theme already. Lily, you gave us an idea for a theme. We would like you to tell us what you wonder about things with wings. Tell us what you wonder about things with wings. And you can send those in for us to answer next week on the 16th of April at 10:30 Pacific time.
Great. And again, if you have bears on the brain or want to know more about the park, we're going to post some links again after the video here and give you some more things, fun things to do and look at and learn about. And one of those things that we're going to share with you is an activity that was posted on Yosemite's Facebook account recently. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun. It's a draw a bear activity. One of our other rangers, Ranger Steffi, developed an activity where you can draw your own black bear in Yosemite. And so I actually thought it was so fun. I wanted to do it myself.
Oh, show us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So right before the video, I drew myself. Here it is on camera. Using the tutorial, using the directions, a black bear in Yosemite.
That was great.
So thank you. Somebody says, great job there, Kay. Thank you.
Yeah, so
And
you can draw your own bear.
you can draw your own bear if you follow the directions, and it'll look amazing.
And if you're a parent and you're looking for an extension activity to this video, you'll see a couple links to other videos about black bears and a link to the tutorial about how your kid or how you can draw a really cool black bear.
Great. And our next live episode is once again next week, same time.
So Thursday, April 16th, 10:30 Pacific time. Thanks. Yeah. Share this video with your friends. Share it with people that you know that are teachers. Share it with kids. And definitely tune in next week to Kids Ask Rangers.
Great. Well, we'll see you next week. And I look forward to next episode. We're going to be signing off for now. But once again, I'll be in the comments for a little bit here, trying to see how many more questions we can answer in the chat. Great. Thank you all so much.
Stay curious.
Stay curious. Well, see you later.
I haven't seen any like vultures out there today. Did we see any this morning?
I saw a vulture, yeah.
I don't think it was warm enough yet.
Yeah.